Hey Team Bio, welcome to your next screencast on Keystone species. We've been studying ecology, and in particular, we have been looking at ecology relationships. We have discussed how relationships between species in terms of symbioses, so mutualism, commensalism and parasitism affect dynamics between species, and we've also talked about connections between species and the environment, the abiotic factors in the environment, and we've also talked about how abiotic factors can can affect biome distribution, specifically temperature and precipitation, and how changing temperature and precipitation can have large effects on ecosystems. Specifically, we've talked about that in regards to climate change. And today we're going to talk about how biotic factors changing can also have ramifications for ecosystems. I guess I should say ecosystems instead of ecology. Okay, so on from abiotic factors, specifically temperature and precipitation, to biotic factors. What happens when we change some of the living things in an ecosystem, and what are the ramifications for those or of those changes? Okay, so introducing the idea of a keystone species. Before you know what a keystone species is, I think it's important to talk about what a keystone is itself. What a keystone is the top rock in an arch, which is providing equal and opposite pressure to each arm of the arch and holding the arch in place. If you were to remove the keystone, typically the keystone is the last piece to go into the arch, and if you were to remove the keystone, the entire arch would fall down. Okay, so this idea applied to organisms is that a keystone species is a species on which other species in the ecosystem largely depend. So other largely depend on keystone, KEY. There's a big impact relative to this species abundance. So big impact and removal of this keystone species changes the ecosystem dramatically. Okay, so what you're going to do now, at the end of this video, you are going to transition to watching another video, which is all about the impact of wolf removal and reintroduction to Yellowstone. So what I want you to do in this area of your notes down here is to diagram out what's called the trophic cascade. So you all now know that a trophic level, or organisms can be kind of grouped into trophic levels. We've got our primary producers at the base, followed by our consumers, primary, secondary, tertiary, and then our decomposers. So the removal of wolves from Yellowstone had led to a trophic cascade. It had effects that were far reaching, far beyond the direct prey, for example, of the wolf. So what I want you to do in this space is to diagram out that trophic cascade visually. What happens when the wolves were removed? And what happened when the wolves were reintroduced? Oops. Reintroduced. So in your notes on Schoology, I would like to see a flowchart of wolf removal and its impacts, and then wolf reintroduction and its impacts over here. Okay, good luck. We will talk about this on Wednesday.